Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing very well today and you're ready to start your day with me, Moharram, only on PTV World this morning. We have a very important show for you today, and as you know, there's a lot of things happening within the city, within the country, due to the importance of the day. So today we're going to be bypassing the headlines and we're going to go straight to the subject. The public service message, everything like that, that's all inclusive of the show today. And as you know, this weekend we have a very important observation coming up. It's a very important time for Muslims all over the world. It is Moharram, as we know. It is the first month of the Islamic calendar, and the first 10 days of Muharram are observed because of the historical things that happened within the religion, and something that we are still taking messages from, still trying to learn from. We're still learning about the sacrifice that was made. We're learning about the lessons that we're supposed to take from these sacrifices and the tragedy that took place. And you know, these kind of topics are always very sensitive because, you know, people have different schools of thought, but at the end of the day, every Muslim is united that what happened was a sacrifice. It's something that we need to pay tribute to and take heed of, and also remember accurately the historical facts that happened back then, and how can we go forward and prevent such tragedies from happening in the future. Because at the moment, even in the current state of the world politics and affairs, it's not so positive. You know, a lot of people are suffering. Yes, there's great things happening and we're very positive people, but people are suffering. There are injustices being carried out. So for that, we have been joined by a very special guest. We haven't seen him for a while, and he's going to discuss the importance, especially of the 9th and 10th of Muharram. What actually is, what are the technical terms for it for all our viewers who are living across the world, actually, and who may not be followers of Islam. We're here to give you shed some light on the importance of it. So we've been joined by Mr. Shahir Elahi. He is an assistant professor at Barrier University. He's the author of 2 books. He has published 40+ research-based articles, and he's here with us to discuss the importance. Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Wa alaikum assalam. Very good morning to you as well.
Thank you so much for joining us today. So, you know, I've given a very brief, a very broad general introduction, but tell us what is the historical and what's the historical relevance of Ashura for us today?
Yes.
Sorry, Muharram.
Yes, it's the same, because the entire essence of Muharram, the juice of Muharram, comes in Ashura, on the day of 9th and 10th, which was always very important historically for all the Abrahamic religions, not just for Islam, but also for Jews and Christians as well.
Excellent.
It was an important day in the history of the mankind, and especially for Abrahamic religions. The dilemma of the modern man, of the modern brain, of the modern episteme, is that it is encountering hopelessness, absurdity. Though the entire movement of hopelessness is towards hope, but that movement is generated through some moral ideals.
Okay.
The historicity, the factuality of this tragic incidents known as the Battle of Karbala and the sacrifice of Imam Hussein teaches us to stay hopeful, to draw a moral ideal so we can take refuge in it. The modern tragedy is that we cannot linger on to, cling on to something that can give us hope,
Okay.
can bring something positive out of this man, which is encountering the nature through technology, modern sciences, but is unable to find that inner peace, the quest. They're unable to deceive the horrifying reality of death.
Okay.
And when you see a moral ideal like Imam Hussein, you are being prepared towards fighting for a great end to your own self. So Hussein and the historical substance it gives to humanity is extremely relevant to the modern man. It brings peace and hope.
Okay, now that leads on to the next point then. What are the historical facts? What is because this show I really want to bring out what everyone, Muslim, non-Muslim, doesn't matter what school of thought you believe in, what sect you're part of, what are the facts that people need to be aware of to realize everything, to find that inner peace, to start that journey? Because if you don't know the facts, then the sacrifices of Hazrat Imam Hussain are not going to be appreciated as much.
One of the most important fact, though it may be painted as political, but to fight against the tyranny, injustice, the true morality, the true essence of humanity, to stand for its own right of being a human.
Okay.
The sharaf-e-insan, the righteousness of the humanity, stands with Hussain. So one historical fact is that a human or the human civilization must not submit to injustice.
Okay, so now, but tell us, what were the historical facts that people need to know about what took place? So, the thing is, we're talking about it because we know about it. So I want to talk about it in a bit more basic terms, so that the people who haven't studied it, who don't know about Islam, that they understand what took place.
The grandson of Prophet Muhammad was called by the people of Kufa. They were starting writing letters that we are being governed by somebody who's trying to implement injustice in the society. And we need someone who's more righteous and who's the true representative of God and also the grandson of Prophet Muhammad. So they started looking up to Imam Hussain and they started writing letters from Kufa. That is exactly why Imam Hussain sent his cousin Muslim bin Aqil to Kufa to start talking to people and see what is the actual situation, what is the actual fact which is happening on the ground. And he said that yes, there is some sort of tyranny, there is rebellious movements, people are not happy about being governed by such people, and I think you should come over and talk to people and see what we can do about it. So Imam Hussain, along with his family, so it is evident that he wasn't prepared to fight. He was going with the family to talk to people, to make a very sane discussion with the government, the governors, and also with the people of the Kufa who were looking up to Imam Hussain so they can come and become a mediator. So when Hussain arrived, the Yazid and his government and the people, they started manipulating the situation. And they brought all the army, they started buying people, they were implementing a lot of force on them. So what happened, the Kufa did not stand with Hussain. So Hussain was left alone in the middle of Karbala. It was very tragic for Hussain. He came for those people, and people did not stand with Hussain. Hussain was left alone. And then Mir Anis beautifully depicted it like in a couplet, where he presents how Hussain was all alone. He was the grandson of Prophet Muhammad and was left alone by the people of Kufa. So he said, "Kapdon se aa rahi thi Rasool-e Zaman ki boo." His clothes were fragrant of the fragrance of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. "Dulha ne sungi hogi na aisi dulan ki boo." No groom have ever smelled a beautiful scent which was coming from Hussein's body and cloak. "Haidar ki Fatima ki Hussaino Hassan ki boo, phaili hui thi char taraf panj tan ki boo." The holy five were presented in the form, in the shape, in the body of Imam Hussain.
Okay.
And he was left alone. Imagine the grandeur, the gravity of Imam Hussain and his respect. And even then he was left alone. So one important historical fact is that we humans are generally inclined towards power. Whenever a power is forced onto us, we change lines, except one person who made a miracle in the history of mankind.
Okay, so now we just gave a very brief introduction into actually some of the historical things that took place, and we have got multiple shows which we've got into depth on it. But now let's talk about the lessons that we're supposed to learn. Now, the sacrifice that we made, you made a very important point about the humanity. It's about, you know, when power is enforced on someone, they tend to get into line. Now, in the 21st century, when we're looking at the state of the society and politics, not just within Pakistan, this is happening across the globe. You just had the elections in Germany where you're seeing these divisions where people want power. It's about us versus them still. Like, you have elements of that. So how can we learn from such a incredible historical religious event, which is still relevant today?
The biggest discourse of the 21st century is the discourse of power. Everything reflects power. The education, the aesthetics, everything. My attire, the way I speak, it just implements power on the other. It creates other straight away. So the power is the biggest discourse, and it somehow is unable to learn from the tragedy of Hussein. The Hussein power is derived from powerlessness, that I am powerless, but the actual power lies with the divine, not with this worldly power aspects. So this very important essence, this very important aspect of Karbala is to seek refuge in the divine help, in the divine intervention. Not to seek help who himself or herself is seeking help from someone. So this message of becoming the true servant of the Lord and make you powerless in front of the Lord and powerful in front of the creations is the lesson what we can learn from Hussein. To become the true servant, Abd, the Abdullah, the true identity of the human is to achieve this target, that I'm the true servant of the Lord. And by saying that I'm the true servant of the Lord, it means that I give service to humanity. My body, my death, my life, even my death, the way I'm going to die is going to be a service to the humanity. So Hussein's death is a forever service to humanity. And I can relate and die easily that Hussein's death was like a pivotal point in the history of mankind. Now I can die peacefully fighting for justice, for peace, for humanity. So this is one important relevance and learning for the mankind.
Okay, now the thing is, it's all about righteousness, it's all about decency, it's about trying to get the other person to see, what they're doing wrong. It's about trying to get them to, it's also about realization that we are, like you said, that this is just temporary, we are at the end of the day helpless, and the universe and God, have their own kind of plans, and we need to.
Hussein reflects the permanence.
Of
permanence of God, permanence of truth, permanence of death, permanence of something which is the fate of mankind. Other than permanence is temporary. It's all temporary. The space and time, it revolves around this temporary temporality. And speciality. And it's all divided. Look, Hussein is permanent in a way. His sacrifice is permanent in a way. It reflects permanence in a way that it's been good so many years. And he's still alive. You can still feel. Why? Permanence comes from the experiential nature of knowledge, not to understand. The biggest learning for mankind is to experience the tragedy, not to understand it.
I actually agree with you, and I also think, they said people overuse the word love, like people don't know the meaning of the word love, but people don't actually know the meaning of this. But now let's talk about this. Now, the permanence of all of the importance of it. Even now we are still with as much feeling and emotions. We observe, observe the whole month as well. A lot of people go the whole month observing Moharram. Now, the thing is, have we in the 21st century, and I know the answer to it because I can just flick the channels and I can tell you, like you said, it's about the permanence. It's about until you experience it, you won't realize actually, you won't understand it. Now, we have lots of people who study it. We talk about it every year. Every year we do this show. I've been doing it for 4 years. Do we actually follow these lessons in our lives for the whole year?
No.
Do Muslims do that?
No, no, I agree. I fully agree with
It's
you.
like with fasting, you know, in that month
Yes.
we remember, but it's about making changes for the rest of the year.
It is becoming very ritualistic. Somehow the capital modern industry tries to develop everything into a commodity. And the irony is the actual sadness of behind observing Moharram in 21st century is so sad that it's very corporate, it's very commercial now.
Okay.
Because the essence, the juice, the learning, what we can learn out of the sacrifice of Hussein is to be experienced, is not meant to be understood. So unless I'm not going to observe it with deep respect, with focus and meditation, I will not understand the true nature of the sacrifice of Hussein, which will bring the exact revolution in my cognition, in my understanding.
Okay, no, I agree with you. I think, you know, I agree with you to a certain point, and that's true. Like, we need to study it, learn it, with respect and with actual desire to learn. Now, you have people who are, you know, who try to guide you. They try to take you in the right direction. You know, they're very, very adamant that, you know, on these days you should not be doing anything. And there's, like you said, the rituals of it. Now, how do we break free of the rituals? Because it's not recently it's become ritualistic. Human nature is to pick up on rituals, isn't it? I mean, to a certain degree, we can't help it. So how do we break through the rituals and say, well, this is the essence. This is the history that every child needs to learn.
Yes.
How do we make them understand it?
You have made the answer in your question.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes, rituals are important to bring conformity and to bring social solidarity. It is important because otherwise we may not be able to remember the event with its details, intricate details. But to break away from the shackles of rituals, because rituals, they make you passive. They make you habitual of doing something. So to break away from habit is creativity, is a new learning. And how to do it is to do whatever Hussein has done in Karbala, and we've been asked to do by following Hussein. One, do not create.
Sorry?
We must not create this, you know, this imbalance in the society. One important aspect of Hussein is that we all humans are one when it comes to pain, when it comes to tragedy, when it comes to hunger, when it comes to thirst, when it comes to power. So we must not create a disproportionate classification in society.
Okay. But that's the thing. So we're running out of time. But that's the point, though. We see this pain, this hunger, this suffering every day.
Yeah.
So why are we not learning these lessons
Because
and
we are not
implementing
we
every
are
day?
not the true Hussainis.
Okay.
Sultan Bahu beautifully depicted it. Just trying to summarize it.
Yeah.
ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਮਿਰਾਜ ਨਬੀ ਨੂੰ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੁਸੈਨ ਨੂੰ 4 ਵਾਰੀ ਹੂ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਮਿਰਾਜ ਅੰਬੜੀ ਦੀ ਗੋਦੀ ਦੂਜਾ ਨਾਨੇ ਦੀ ਸਵਾਰੀ ਹੂ ਤੀਸਰਾ ਮਿਰਾਜ ਖੰਜਰ ਦੀ ਧਾਰ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿੱਥਾਂ ਸ਼ਾਹ ਨਮਾਜ਼ ਗੁਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਹੂ ਤੇ ਚੌਥਾ ਮਿਰਾਜ ਨੇਜ਼ੇ ਦੀ ਨੋਕ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿੱਥਾਂ ਵੇਖਿਆ ਖਲਕਤ ਸਾਰੀ ਹੂ the message of Karbala lies in the chest, not in the brain. Unless I'm not being revolved by my chest, I will keep on manipulating the service, the compassion, humanity, peace through my brain. So, Hussein,
From the heart.
here,
Okay,
not from
wonderful. Great. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to discuss the importance of this month. So I hope you guys took something from the show. And now we're going to go for a short break. And when you come back, we're going to be observing something else that you guys should be aware about. So stay tuned to find out what it is.
ancient city of Taxila is the heart of stonework in Pakistan. This art, which has been preserved and practiced for centuries, can be seen on many major landmarks of the country. Notably, the Pietra Dura work in the Lahore Fort's Sheesh Mahal. These stone products take days to complete and require immense precision and skill from the craftsmen. The final products are perfect for souvenirs, gifts and decoration pieces, each depicting the richness of Pakistani culture at its best. Camel skin and ivory craft are trademarks of Multan's handicraft repertoire. Camel skin is cleaned, dried and mounted onto molds which can be of any shape desired. Multicolored lacquer painting is then used to ornament the molds, which in the end bear a Mughal or Persian feel. Ivory is crafted into pens, chess sets, jewelry and other accessories such as keychains by the expert craftsmen. Such detailed work, while being extravagant,
Welcome back, everyone. And before the break, as you are aware, on the weekend is the 9th and 10th of Moharram, which is in the Islamic calendar very religiously important and historically has had a huge impact on the whole of the history of Islam and how we observe things. So now, moving on, the reason why we're aware of such things is because we have literature. We have literature which has been in different languages, which has been translated. As a result of the translation, we are able to understand what our religious book, the Quran, says, which is very important because it's our way of life. So that is the importance of translation for me. Now, today is actually International Translation Day, and we are observing the importance. Why are we observing it? What is the importance of translation in our day-to-day age? Because I know we have these discussions, especially with my producers, when we're talking about, beautiful Pakistani literature and Urdu poetry, and they're like, no, Maha, if you translate it, then it loses its beauty and its meaning. And I'm always like, yeah, but then people who don't speak that language will never understand the talent that we have spread across the world. So to discuss the importance of translation and why we should be aware of it, we've been very lucky. We've been joined by Dr. Mohammed Ziaul Haq. He is the Director General of the Islamic Research Institute and Professor of Sharia and Islamic law. Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Assalamu alaikum, good
Thank
morning.
you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Besides Dr. Mohammed Ziaul Haq, we've been joined by Dr. Imam al-Haq Ghazi. He is the Chairman of the Department of Translation and Interpretation. Assalamu alaikum, good morning.
Assalamu alaikum, good
Thank you
morning,
so much for
Maha.
joining us today.
Thank you very much
So
for the
actually,
invitation.
Dr. Ghazi, I'm going to start with you
Okay,
first. Because you were here last year, and we didn't cross paths last year when you were here to observe this day. Why should we be aware of this day? Because it seems, for some people, it's a bit random.
Yeah, before I say something, my name is Inam ul Haq, not Imam ul Haq.
Oh, sorry, Inam ul Haq, sorry.
A bit correct.
Yeah.
You see, translation as a practice is a very ancient activity. I think it's as old as the existence of human being on this earth. But, as a practice, it continued throughout the centuries. But 70 years ago, people realized that there are problems, occurred due to the mistranslation, over-translations, under-translation, and so on and so forth. and that created political problems,
Right.
peace-related issues. You know, there were wars on that, and I would give you some examples after that. But in 1953, a federation called International Federation of Translators was established, and they decided to fix a day to commemorate the contribution of the translators throughout the history and so on and so forth. And they decided 30th September
Okay.
because this is the day of feast of Saint Jerome, who translated the Bible from.
Okay, and so we're going to have to pause you there for a moment because we have some technical issues. But so let's just move on to Dr. Mohammed. Today, it's important, it's relevant, it's still very relevant. So why are we not more aware of the importance of interpretation?
Actually, there are two things. First is translation, and then is interpretation.
Okay.
Both these interpretation and translation are very important in our tradition, in our religious tradition, in our cultural tradition, and in our civilization.
Okay.
Because translation and then interpretation, both are playing very important role in the process of adoption and adaptation. The process that is continued between civilizations.
Okay.
So, before rise of Islamic civilization,
Yeah.
there were other civilizations. Muslims, Islamic civilization is combination of two things:
Okay.
theology,
Yes.
religious knowledge. Religious knowledge is revealed.
Yeah.
Muslims, they had not learned it from anyone else.
Yeah.
But the second part of Islamic civilization is the pure sciences.
Okay.
In pure sciences, the first tool that was used by the Muslims, that they translated the Greek books into Arabic.
Exactly.
First stage was translation, and that stage initiated in the first century of Hijrah. Of course, Muslims' interest towards the translation, it was established first of all when people belonging to different civilizations, they entered into Islam, and they tried to understand, non-speak Arabic speaking, they were interested to understand Quran. So first of all, they requested for the translation of Al-Quran, and it was allowed by the Muslims in the beginning of the second
Yep.
century of Hijrah. The initial efforts for the translation of Quran started, and the objective of these translations were that people, they should understand what is Quran. Later on, Muslims, they took it as a movement, and that movement was actually in beginning of the second century of Hijrah. Muslims, they started this process of translation.
Okay.
In this process of translations, Muslims, they were very accurate. They translated first of all, then they refined it. They put their own energies on it. Translation,
Okay.
the process of refinement, and then the process of updating.
Right.
And then they updated it, they contextualized it, and when with the dawn of Islamic civilization, they handed over this work to European civilization.
Okay. Yes, exactly. And that's, the collaboration had then led to a lot of scientific and technological and all these advancements in the modern world.
Yeah.
And so without interpretation and then, translation and then interpretation, we would probably not have these devices and all these things, correct? Because I think, so now let's move on to Dr. Inamul Haq Ghazi. So tell us, now that we know the context of the importance of the day and the importance of interpretation and translation, they go hand in hand. Within Pakistan, where are we at in regards to interpreting and translating our works and literature?
As I said, translation as an academic field,
Yes.
its age is just 70 years. When people started, doing research in different, aspects of this phenomenon.
Right.
And interestingly, we always refer back to the European history. According to one study, the European Union would have been established in 1893
Okay.
if a misunderstanding because of the translation between German and French would have not happened. It's a
Okay.
very interesting study. I'm quoting this.
Okay.
And then we have, First World War and Second World War, and then they also realized that there is something else other than, the cultural differences or the political agendas and so on and so forth. So they found out that there are problems in mistranslations. I quote one example. In 1946, 1945, when the Allied forces, asked the Japan to surrender, and the Japanese premier at that time, he was asked to comment on this demand, and he used a Japanese phrase and said "mako satsu," which was translated, which meant no comment, but it was translated not worthy of comment. You see, the not worthy of comment created a hue and cry among the Allied. Oh, how come we have destroyed the whole Japan, and now still they are saying that, mistranslation. This what I want to say is that, translation is not a simple thing. You take the example of sign, the word sign in Punjabi, we say sign, a person who has no, interest in the worldly life or is, belongings and things and so on and so forth. But, we use this word in Sindh as well.
Okay.
But the sign is a higher status when you give someone respect. So there are susceptibilities in translation. We are using words,
Okay, now, so this is very important because the International Interpretation Day it's linked with, it's for the interpreters and translators as well who work out there. So the people who are experts in this area of interpretation, like you said, the comment that was misinterpreted, and then it can lead to unrest within, even within the diplomatic and political world. Now, how important is it within Pakistan to encourage people to understand the importance of learning languages and getting part of the field of interpretation and translations and everything in that field?
As a Pakistani, Urdu is very dear to us. And majority of the people in Pakistan, they would like to read whatever is written in Urdu.
Okay.
So the first and most important thing for, importance for us in translation is that what is happening in globe, it should be translated into Urdu so that Pakistani people can understand it.
Absolutely.
For example, I will quote one example. In the field of Islamic studies and Islamic learning, presently most important books are written in German, then in French, and the third number is for English. But unfortunately, we are not aware what is happening in German language and what is happening in French language, because we are considering that other than Urdu, English is sufficient for us.
Okay.
English is very important, but English is not the global language. We also need to understand German language, French language, and other European countries, and even Russian. Russian is very important.
Right.
And a lot of things are written in Russian language. So we need to understand, we need to have this academic discipline in Pakistani universities so that anything good that is in any language of the world, we should translate it and present it into Urdu.
Absolutely.
This is very important. And another thing is that, as Dr. Inam has mentioned, translation is not the translation of the words. The translation of words can be done even by Google. It is actually the translation of the thoughts.
Okay.
That is very important, and that is where translation met with interpretation, because you are always using the word interpretation.
Okay, exactly, and that's very important that you said that, because even when you mentioned about even within our religion, with the Quran, it was in Arabic. Now we have different interpretations and translations of it as well. So it's very
in almost every language of the world, Quran is translated.
and that's amazing. And so now, sorry, Dr. Inam, you want
You
to add
see,
something?
Dr. Saab is talking about the international languages. I just want to add to it, we have in Pakistan 60 languages, big or small, whatever, and there are 6 big languages spoken by Pakistanis. I was just, scanning the statistics available, or the statistics
Yes, I'm
problem
trying
in
to.
Pakistan.
I got them yesterday
The statistics
too.
issues is a big issue in Pakistan. But whatever was available, and I was really, surprised to know that, the Sindhi translation into Urdu or Balochi literary translation into Urdu and so on and so forth, or you know, the what we call local translations,
Yeah.
but they are local languages. The translation among these languages, the situation is not good.
Yes,
And
this is what I wanted to.
you know, we don't, and that is why we have this kind of you know, alakai tassub, when people, you know, they think I don't understand you because I can't learn your language, you can't learn my language. So the bit mediation is through translation.
Okay.
But it's not happening.
Okay.
But the question that you asked, Dr. Saab, and I think you also referred it to me, the need here in Pakistan from the international point of view and the local, our basic needs as well there. But there is bigger than that. We need to think in terms of the academic matters. We need to think in terms of the training of the translators. Because without training and the advanced world, you know, they have brought a complete comprehensive policies for the translators. If I do a mistranslation of a text which goes to the court and court take a wrong decision based on my mistranslation, you know, if it happened in
Yes.
Germany, they have laws.
Yeah.
We don't have anything, any policy or code of ethics for the translation. And prior to that, we need to recognize this as an academic field. HEC has a very great role in promoting that, and they are doing it.
Yes.
The government agencies and the parliament, they need to, you know, bring suitable laws for this purpose. You know,
Okay, now you mentioned a very good point about the provincial languages as well, and the importance of the communication between people within their own country. Now, as you mentioned, we don't give too much weight on, you know, our own languages. You know, Urdu is also being sidelined. Like you said, English is enough. And, you know, people think if you speak English, then that's it, you're sorted. Your life is
Hegemonic
sorted.
language.
It does help a lot. You know, it's beneficial in many ways. But how do we get it to the grassroots levels that you need to be aware of the situation regarding interpretation, translation, and why as an average Joe, like you said, if all the laws and the legislation is written in English, then how will they know what their rights are? So how do the people on the ground level realize their
Actually, for making Pakistan and for the reconstruction of Pakistani society, we need to change differences into diversity. And my understanding is that in all Pakistani languages, I will say all Pakistani languages and I will say all our languages,
Yeah.
they are very close to each other because they are linked with Urdu and they are linked with Arabic. So when you started from Sindh, you entered into Punjab. In Sindh, you have Sindhi language. Then in Multan, you have Saraiki,
Yes.
the little bit amended Sindhi language. Then you entered into the central Punjab, where you find pure Punjabi, but at the same time affected from Urdu language. And then you entered to Islamabad and Pothohar. Again, Punjabi shifted towards the Pashto, and then you entered into Peshawar, where you find Pashto. And then go to Balochistan, where you find Balochi and Pashto language together, and then
Wonderful.
just move to Kashmir and you find the sweet language of the Kashmir.
Yeah.
These are all Pakistani languages.
Excellent.
And all these languages are playing very important role in the national process of integration
Okay, yes.
and assimilation. And this process is still continue in dresses, in foods, in dances, in music. There's a process. You will find in Lahore many Pashtun who are speaking Punjabi better than Punjabis.
Excellent.
You will find many Punjabi in Peshawar who are speaking Pashto better than Pashtuns.
Okay.
And same you will find many Urdu speaking in Balochistan who are speaking Balochi language better than the Balochis. But the problem is that this is specific to certain classes and certain people. We had to broad that message
Okay.
because the spirituality, the thoughts, and the love and tolerance that is existing in our traditional languages, Pakistani language,
Yep.
that is very important. And through translation,
will
we
get that.
can change these ethnic differences into diversity, and
Okay.
diversity would contribute to
Okay,
Pakistan.
wonderful. We have actually absolutely run out of time. If you 10 seconds, you got 5 seconds to say it. Yes.
okay, just the academic front.
Quickly, very quickly.
In 3 universities are offering different
Yes.
program. Our university is, you know, heading towards the PhD program.
Excellent.
After offering BS translation, MS translation studies, short courses in 3 language pairs, and maybe after one or so, we would be offering PhD in translation studies.
Wonderful, and we will give you all the links on our website to your departments as well, so that if people want any information, they can get it. It's very important to learn languages, especially provincials.
Of Muslims in the
Wonderful,
translation.
and so we will give you all of that information on our Facebook fan page, which is with the name of World This Morning, our Twitter page, World This Morning without a G, our Daily Motion and YouTube page, World This Morning, and the repeat is at 11:05 p.m. Have a wonderful weekend. But you know, if you are observing 9th and 10th of Moharram, please be safe. There are diversions and things like that, so have a good weekend, and I will see you bright and early on Monday morning.
Enviable location.